Today is day one of working for Elon Musk. So working for Elon Musk, day one, my new job, my dream job, working directly for Elon Musk, day one. And this is in reference to SpaceX and Occupy Mars. I think that's what my problem was. I don't want to work for SpaceX. I just want to work for Elon Musk. So here we are, day one, working my dream job. So with Occupy Mars, I took a look at your city again, and I thought this was the best city that I've ever seen. This is the best Mars city that I have seen in my entire life. I think it's a great city. I would want to live there. I believe in you. So I think it would be a good idea if we started building a replica on Earth. So we can start building the city that you have dreamed out for Mars. We can start building a replica on Earth, and that way we can start identifying problems while we're here and optimizing it. Instead of building it there and then it's like, oh, we didn't think about that, or oh, it would have been nice if this, or da 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 da. As you have new ideas for, I think if we build a city, people should be using it, people should live there. You already sleep at your job anyways. So I imagine you're going to be living there. So as you're living there, you'll start having these ideas and optimization things that you could do while living in the city. So while you're having that, we can do all that optimization work on Earth. Instead of thinking about what it would be like when we build it on Mars, you can build it on Earth, and then we'll know what it's like. And then when things are like out of alignment or could be tweaked a little bit, when we're made aware of that, you can make adjustments in real time. And then people can also start learning certain skills and functioning together in a community. So if this is like a new colony that you want to put on Mars, well, people are going to have to transition from mental work to maybe physical labor. The work that we're going to be doing on this Mars colony, it might be different than the work that people are accustomed to. So then, if people want to live in the Mars city simulation, well, that also gives time to learn new skills and learn the work that you're going to be doing in the new colony, as opposed to the work that we're doing maybe here on Earth. It might be different. So people also have a chance to learn new skills or develop new skills and get accustomed to working together as a community. So with your Mars city, you could also start developing like hydroponic systems. So this is from The Martian. That's a good movie where he's growing potatoes. So we could also start developing these hydroponic systems and working and learning those and optimizing those, considering how much generation we're going to need for the number of people that's going to house there, and kind of figuring out what the generation requirements are, the nutrition needs to sustain however many people are on that Mars colony. So you could also start developing hydroponic systems for growing certain food. We won't be able to grow everything, but there are some things that we could grow inside the Mars city. Yep, and this is from Blast from the Past. He has his fish tank. So he has this. He is what's this, fish farming? I don't know the right words. So, in addition to like growing certain starches, you could also design a system for fish farming, and you can optimize that and consider how much protein people need and what that generation looks like and what's the life cycle to get how quick do fish reproduce, and you can optimize that. So that's Blast from the Past. That's him in his bomb shelter with his fish tank, farming fish for his family, and then he has his herbs also. So finding out what vegetables, what proteins, what starches we're going to need in the Mars city and start building that out here and optimizing it. So when we go, everyone knows how everything works and we already know what to do and it's already established. You can build a simulation here on Earth for your Mars city, and then once it's established and everyone has the learning and the training, and we can just go and build, and then everyone already knows what to do. This is kind of a want, it's not a need, but can we make room for flowers? So if you have systems designed where you're growing maybe certain fruits and vegetables, could we also see if we can make room for flowers? Girls like flowers, so that's a source of joy. And life might be a lot different going from Earth to Mars. And little things like flowers, well, that could help. Because I think a lot of comforts are going to be removed. So if we're able to think of small comforts like flowers, that we can still have enjoyment, you know, in day-to-day lives, I think, you know, flowers would be a good investment. So I put this picture of Rapunzel because kind of like how when you think of Iron Man, you see that and you're like, my life's a simulation. It's like I am Iron Man. When I watch Rapunzel, sometimes I think like, because of the similarities and the synchronicities with her and like her hobbies and everything she does, that's kind of like, she's my Iron Man for you. Like you to Iron Man is me to Rapunzel. But now I'm trying to just make myself be Pepper Potts. So, and then when you start building your Mars city, I think it would be good if you got counsel from maybe like cruise ship builders, because they design these condensed cities for the water. So I think if you got counsel from them, they kind of have the process already in their mind. You would just have to retrofit it to what your needs would be. So I think if you met with like cruise ship builders and identified like what our needed spaces would be and our wanted spaces, if they could be fit in, and then like what the electrical and the water, I think cruise ship builders would kind of have that skills. You know, they've been kind of utilizing that skill over time, and it's like they've been doing it with cruise ships. I think if you brought one of them in, they would be able to like draw it out for you, having already done the legwork and like know what to account for and know what you want. You know, with cruise ships, I think they would be helpful with planning out a city for Mars. I think, yeah, their skill set is transferable. So I would meet with them. So for needed spaces, I think a workshop for clothes and then machines. With our clothing, I think we're going to have to be doing repairs and mending and alterations as opposed to like buying new clothes. I think that skill set is going to have to be done. And then a safe play space for boys. I'm thinking like a padded room with like climbing and like rope swings and stuff. And girls can play too, but that's just kind of, and like, you know, boys and wrestling and stuff like that, and pretend fighting, but like not cultivating like aggression, just, you know, play fighting. So a safe play space for boys. And then I think as a community, we would just have to resist the temptation of calling it the kennel. So, and then a safe play space for girls where maybe it's more quiet and they're coloring or they're making bracelets. Play spaces for boys and girls, and yeah, they can intermingle, and boys can make bracelets too, and girls can go, you know, climb or whatever. But I think the physical differences kind of, I don't know. I'm not trying to offend anyone with gender stuff. I think a game room is really important for socialization and also for mental stimulation. So like I think it would be the equivalent of like a gym for your mind. So you know how when astronauts go to space, they have these gyms so that their bodies don't decay and they suffer atrophy? I think a game room would be the equivalent, so that you can go and play games and you have to strategize and exercise logic and thinking and reasoning. I think that would keep our brains from atrophy. I think a game room is really important. And also for like socialization. I think it's like a mind gym, you know. And then I put a library and then maybe like a TV room where there's like movies and video games. And then we would need physical copies, you know, for those. And then wanted spaces. If we could have an Elton John piano bar, that would be fun. So I was just thinking of what I've seen on cruise ships, and I like social spaces. So I'm not sure what square footage we have to account for social spaces in the Mars city. And some spaces might serve dual purposes, like in the morning it's a whatever, and then at the evening it transitions into an Elton John piano bar. But we could start thinking about that, what spaces we need and what time they would be used for, and then what spaces could be shared for different activities based off of time of day. Also, you get counsel from Amish people and vintners and chefs. Amish people for like bread making, processing grain, and making bread, and vintners for wine making. I'm not sure if like with our hydroponics, if we can grow grapes and then also learn how to ferment wine. You know, yeah. And then chefs, so you could have, you know, some hired chefs where they design a rotation of diverse meals based off of optimized ingredients and what each body needs for calories and nutrition. So then it's like considering what we can grow for hydroponics, you can bring in some chefs where it's like they start thinking of meal plans and, you know, a diversity and like nutrient dense meal plans, and they optimize it so that the number of ingredients is kind of as reduced as it could be. So, yeah, I think we would want diverse meals. And you can, you know, have diverse meals with a limited number of ingredients. And I think if you brought in some chefs, it's like they could start curating meal plans and like rotations based off of the you know, what we can get from the hydroponic systems and like the fish. So you can start planning that out now. Also, holistic care for one's body, mind, heart, and spirit. And I think with like a new colony, every human body is valuable. When you take a select number of people and you go to start a new colony and you have it so where each everything's optimized and everyone has a certain job, and it's like if that person is sick and they're not able to do that job, I think the whole civilization feels it. If you remove them, it's like, well, that lack is felt, it's seen. I think every human body is valuable. Similar with clothes, how it's like we're going to have to mend and repair. I think that's going to be more so how we view human bodies in this civilization, where it's like every body is like really valuable, you know, to maintain them. It's the success of the group is dependent on the success of each individual. So I think, yeah, and I have these verses where it talks about healing in regards to, I think it's, you know, referencing spiritual healing, but I think it applies to like physical healing also. So that if someone breaks a bone, we can figure out how to mend it so that it heals. It's probably going to be tough. If we have to amputate something, well, we should learn how to do that too, if needed, and know when to make the call. So minimal, like first aid, care, holistic care, maybe medicinal plants, oils, starting to learn that. I think that would be important. But yeah, I think every human body is really valuable when you have a new civilization and you need people to work and contribute and to function, as one in a body. Maybe we can start cultivating good morals, do good and share, withholding is murder, the strong help the weak, and this mentality of mutual care and shared resources. Not that you can't have personal resources, but there is a shared resources of community resources. If the success of the community depends on everyone having what they need, cultivating a mindset of shared community resources, how it's like you need that person, like that person's labor. When you have a system and you have a small group operating as a community, well, you need the people that do the cleaning or cook or do the repairs. Like every person's job is essential in a small community like that. So it's like, if they're without, it's like you want to, your survival is dependent on their survival. So it's like a oneness within, the community, kind of having that mindset. Not that you can't have your own personal resources, but a mindset of sharing to those in need. And then, so like these are, morals, and it's kind of at the substance of religion. And then I know people have a diversity of traditions and ordinances. And if we go to Mars, that diversity might be seen. So maybe also having a mindset where you're accepting of other people's traditions and ordinances, but no sacrifices. I don't know if there are religions where it's like that practice is played out and they have that tradition, but I think if people war over ordinances and traditions, it's because that's all they have. So they elevate it to a position and they make it essential because that's all they have. They don't have the substance of goodness and compassion and mercy. All they have are these outward ordinances. So that's all they see when they look at different religions. Oh, their outward ordinances are different. They're going to hell and I'm not. I think it's because they don't have the substance of goodness. And if everyone had the substance of goodness, of loving their neighbor as themselves, the outward ordinances wouldn't be so forefront in people's minds. So maybe cultivating morals, fundamental morals of how you are to think if you're functioning in a community like this. And then when I was thinking about when you design these spaces, how I'm assuming like the appliances that you make, they're going to be minimal and they're going to be robust because it's like we want these to last as long as they can. So when you start designing these appliances for the Mars city, I think there's also a need here on Earth for this type of household appliance. I think we're at late stage capitalism. So, yeah. But when planning out your Mars city, you can kind of think like what's needed for individual spaces versus what's needed for the community spaces. Do we want individual spaces where everyone has like all of these appliances, or it's like we have a community space where these appliances are there, and maybe we have people working that cook, and then in our individual space we just have like a mini fridge or whatever. So start thinking through what do we want access to in individual spaces, and then what do we want access to as a community. It's not like every individual needs a full kitchen. You know, you could have however many families share one kitchen. And then as individuals, maybe you have like smaller appliances. And then with products sold to the public, kind of talking about the minimal robust appliances. So the products you engineer, optimize, and build for Mars City, you can kind of think through which ones are worth manufacturing for public consumption. As you're designing and optimizing and engineering appliances for this city, well, I think some of them they would also fill a need for the public here to kind of generate income. And you're already doing the work for Mars City, so it's like you would just have to, since you're doing the work over here, well, if you're mindful of how it could also be sold to the public, SpaceX can make money. So like, yeah, the household appliances, and then maybe like the fish farming systems. I think that might be marketable for, you know, maybe personal households, if that's something that they're interested in, being able to farm their own fish. Grain processing, sewing machines, food products like meal bars and drink additives. So when you have the cooks come in and they're designing like nutrition and diverse meal plans, well, maybe they can also curate and think of like meal bars that are like nutrient dense, because a lot of that stuff can be made here on Earth and then taken with us. So as we design food items like that, food consumables, well, those could also be offered to the public. If it's like we have a meal bar and it's like nutrient dense and it has a long shelf life, and it gives you, you know, what your body needs. It might not taste the best as like if a meal was cooked and, you know, set before you, but your body is, you know, getting what it needs. So if someone's short on time, it's like, I think a lot of people are operating that way in society. So as you kind of optimize meal bars and nutrition for Mars City, I think that would also be a big seller here on Earth. So, and then there's opportunity for charity. So with Mars City, if you have food production system working at full capacity to feed an anticipated number of civilians, well, that food can be provided to families in need. So as you're testing out your Mars City and you have like a food production system and you have an anticipated number of civilians and you want to make sure the food production is working, you know, in order to feed a certain number of people, well, even if those people aren't living in the, you know, in the Mars City simulation, well, that gives opportunity for charity. You know, that's food that you can donate to family in needs. So, yeah, as you're optimizing food production, well, the food that you're making, that can be donated to actual families in need. So there's also like a charity opportunity there. And then, so the Mars City simulation, it doesn't have to be for display only. You can have like additional wings as a hotel to generate income and get people excited about Mars. So it doesn't have to be like just a display only that only certain people have insight to. You can make a couple wings where it's like there's rooms that people can stay in as a hotel, and it's generating income. It's not like you're only pouring money into it. Well, it's like if you add another wing, well, that wing can generate income for people to come and use it as a hotel and, see what it would look like, on Mars. And then I think it would also be good that people could come if they wanted teaching on products before investing in a system. I was thinking about the fish system, and for me, I would be interested in it, but in order for me to feel confident, I would have to go for a week and take a fish every day and watch. I would have to learn how to clean a fish. That's the thing. Even if I'm able to farm fish, I don't have the confidence that I could clean it in a way where the people eating it don't die. So I would have to go to a place for a week where it's every day for lunch, we get a fish, I clean it myself, and it's I cook it. I would also need training on how to cook it, or different ways to cook it, or different ways to cook different types of fish. So I would have to get the fish, clean it, cook it myself, and consume it in order to build the confidence that I can do this before buying a system. Otherwise, it's I'm spending a lot of time on YouTube. I'm asking around a lot. I'm having to do a lot of research on myself. So if you had certain things like grain processing or fish farming, or I don't know if people, I don't eat a lot of meat, but for people that do eat meat, I think rabbits is the best way to have a localized meat production. It's just when I think about that, I think about that movie where they have the rabbits underground, so that's why it's this negative association when I think about rabbits. But I think other people, rabbits would be another, if we wanted meat on Mars City, I think rabbits would be the meat to go with. But for me, I don't know how, I couldn't do it. I can't do it. I want to throw up. But learning how to clean a rabbit and skin a rabbit, I would need to learn that skill before investing in a system. I don't know if chickens can go to Mars City, but something else to think about. But with the fish thing, I think fish is reasonable. But I would just need to learn how to clean a fish and cook a fish. Because I don't know if some fish, it's if you cut a certain organ, well, now everyone who eats it dies. I don't know. I don't have the confidence. So I would have to go and do the work and grow in confidence so that I know that I could clean a fish and cook it. I'll be successful with this system. That's the thing. Training people to be successful in the systems that you're offering. Because there's no point with selling someone a system if they don't know how to use it. You want them to be successful with it. Yeah. So you could have, in addition to people coming just as a resort thing, well, they could come for a retreat and a workshop. Same thing with grinding grain and breaking bread. I would be interested in doing that, but I would need to watch someone and be there. And, and YouTube is a huge blessing. You have free education online, but if I could go and watch and do it myself, that would be helpful. Yeah. So with building a Mars City simulation, well, there are ways where it's if you add another arm, well, that arm can generate income for Mars City. And then with all of these products that you're going to build for Mars City, some of them are applicable for use here on Earth. Well, all of these branches that are coming out of SpaceX, I think they would all be under SpaceX as a corporation. So if SpaceX is pursuing this endeavor to occupy Mars, and now you have these, same thing with NASA and Velcro. So now with this endeavor, there's all these products that might stem from Occupy Mars, and it's all under the SpaceX umbrella. Well, then, boom, SpaceX to the moon. And then in your meetings and your interviews and your, your public engagements, you can come up with things where it's like, I'm not sure if we'll ever make it to Mars, but I know that SpaceX is going to the moon. And then people will be like, in what sense? And then you're like, no further questions. You don't clarify. So SpaceX to the moon. I think pursuing Occupy Mars, I think if you start building that out here on Earth and preparing, I think there's a lot of opportunity where you can optimize products and offer them to the public where it generates income. And now SpaceX is like more profitable, I think. And then partnerships, Boxable. I think that would be another good collaboration. Maybe working with them in addition to like the cruise ship engineers and planners and overseers. I think these are great, this concept. As a growing family, your needs are kind of changing, and it's so much to sell a house and buy a house is so much money. And it's like, an addition is so much money, and it's family needs are always like changing, and then it's like once kids leave the house, now you have grandparents with a huge house, and now it's like they need to downsize. So I think concepts like this are genius. But since they have it where it's like they have the room built out and it's boxable and stuff, well, that's makes it easy to put in shipping containers and go and then assemble. So I think that would be a good collaboration. Seems like they kind of already have a system in place and design mindset where they design it, to be unfoldable. And I think that's what we would need for the Mars city. So you would have that partnership. You could do, and then I thought of my friend Daniel. I think he would be a good partner to have in this endeavor. I think he would be motivated primarily because of, maybe not so much as your end goal of Occupy Mars, but because of the benefits that Occupy Mars would also kind of trickle down to, benefit people here on Earth. I think he would be interested in that endeavor because of, the benefits to those here on Earth and his desire for decentralization and one being able to be self-sustaining and autonomous. So I think he would be, I don't know, blockchain, what that means exactly. I know he's really smart. I know he is really advanced in his field with like crypto and blockchain and what he's developing and what he was able to design, and like financial systems. So I'm not sure if that's needed for Occupy Mars, but I think he would be a valuable collaborator of some kind. I don't even know if you guys know each other, but my apologies if you guys already know each other. But I like his Bible videos. Yep. I learned about him because through this video, this was when I went into my charismatic era, and I was interested in like end times and timelines and dates and calendars, and I was Googling different calendar systems, and I was Googling dates, and then this video came up with that date, and I think it's one of the coolest videos that I've seen, and people give him a hard time because it is like a date setter video where it's like, oh, another end times, date setting prophecy unfulfilled. But it's like he's not like that other guy that was giving a blood moon this every month. I forget his name, but there's a lot of like end time date setters where it's just like arbitrary. But I'm like, if you look at his work, he's different. He's not like your other date setters. He's a different, considering his work, like if all they see is like, oh, your date's wrong, but did you see his work? I'm like, are you saying like he shouldn't have made a big deal about this? If it were me and I was mindful of astronomy and I saw this in the Bible, I would have been hyping it up. Like just because I think he did what he should have done, considering like, yeah, he has it titled How Wonders in Heaven Prove the Bible. I think this is also objective proof about God's existence, similar to how Luke and Acts have fractal patterns, and I see that as objective evidence that Luke and Acts are inspired and objective evidence that God exists. I think this also proves the Bible and that God exists and that Revelation is inspired. 2/13 is my birthday. But I thought you might be interested since you like astronomy. And it talks about that. It's basically how the positioning of the planets in certain constellations, how they line up with the imagery in Revelation. Like if you look at his work, like he's not your normal date setter. That's why people, make these videos like, you had a date and it didn't happen. Like, if that's all you see, like, I don't know how he noticed this, but I thought it was really cool. So with that puts an end to my first day working for Elon Musk, day 1. This is in reference to SpaceX and Occupy Mars. Some ideas, some ways you can move forward to kind of help with this initiative, get people excited about it, putting feet to the work, making steps forward. I think people would get excited about it. I would be excited about it. And I think that is necessary. I don't know. I don't know if people have already proposed this idea to you, if it's already you've been planning on doing a replica. I didn't watch the whole meeting presentation. Maybe I should have done that. It's my first day, but I think building out that city that you want to build on Mars, I think building it out here on Earth and optimizing it would be step 1. Instead of planning it and preparing and then building it there. And yeah, I think building it here and having all the issues come up here and knowing how to resolve them, I think that way it's like once we figure it out and everyone kind of knows what to do, we could take it, set it up, build it, and then everyone already knows what to do. So that's an end of day 1, working for Elon Musk. Day 1 of my dream job. I've just learned that if there's a job you want to do, you can just do it. I mean, not every job, but I've noticed it. It first started with like shepherds, where it's like, I have a teaching gift, so if I can't have a position of authority at this church, well, I need to find a church that will take me as a pastor because I need to be faithful with my teaching gift. And I was like, if you want to do the work, you could just do it. So that's why I just started doing it. You don't need someone's affirmation, permission, payment, title, to do the work. You can just do the work. If you want to do the work of a shepherd, you can just do the work. So if I want to be Pepper Potts, I'm just going to start doing the work. It's my dream job. I did it. I did my dream job. I got it. Whether or not Elon pays me, I don't know. I can't control that. I can only control me. But I got my dream job. I am doing my, the work that I want to do. Does Elon write a check? To be determined. God renders either a just wage or a generous wage. So if you see this, Elon, and you think my work is valuable, and you think through what it's worth, well, God either renders a just wage or a generous wage. If you give a wage that's like less than what it's worth, it's kind of like insulting. It shows that you don't value either the worker or the work. It's like a form of disrespect if you devalue them. So, yeah. But God is your overseer. So to the extent that you want God to bless the fruit of your works, well, consider that when you look at me. If you see this work that I'm doing for you, well, I would seek to bless me to the extent that you would want God to bless you. Yeah. If you want God to bless, the works of your hands, I would bless the works of my hands to the extent that you want God to bless the works of your hands. And I would apply that principle with all of your employees. Yeah. To how you exercise your authority and, as a CEO with your businesses, how you render care to those under your authority, well, that's how God is going to render care to you. So that's how I operate. That's what I do. And I think my problem is that when I've made these videos with like trying to help shepherds, I had it listed as a blessing. I think that's what my problem was, because I put it as a blessing where it's like, and I would reference Hebrews where, it's without dispute that the lesser is blessed by the greater. So I labeled it as a blessing because it was like a free contribution. So this isn't a blessing to Elon. This is work that I'm doing. This isn't a blessing. This is work that I'm doing for Elon. This isn't charity for Elon. This is work. So there is a payment that's due it. I'm just going to do the work. It's my dream job. So I can't control whether or not he pays me for the work, but I'm calling it work now instead of a blessing for Elon. Will he write a check? I don't know. To be determined. I can only control me. So, okay. Thanks.